the Rodin project is our first full-length work. It's a 70-minute work. It's in two halves, and we decided to split it conceptually into two halves. So there's a kind of a white act and a black act, and the white act is using more inspiration initially from the watercolors of Rodin, and the second part is using more inspiration initially from the sculptures of Rodin. When we were thinking of doing the work, and we were trying two different concepts of, we thought maybe marble and bronze, but that didn't work for me because Rodin made figures, and later they were made into marble or bronze, or so then it took me on to watercolor and sculpture, and that gave the canvas, the idea that this should be white and canvas, and we should paint color on that canvas. So we have a light that changes color a lot in the first part. I've been working with Michael Hulls, the lighting designer for this piece, for almost 20 years now, and I think that many of the things that we think about now, how the light and the movement work together, it's kind of part of the process. But there is a qualitative element that affects the body in the light. Whether you seem to be compressed by that light, drawn into that light, whether it's a warming effect, whether it's a cold. Initially, I think we started work doing some research and development with a set, because the way a lot of the sculptures are configured, say a leg is raised, but it's still resting on something, so it gives a very grounded appearance, feel. Or if a torsion, if there's a kind of lying back, they're lying back against a rock, or something is, the limbs might be resting on something. So, or some of the configurations with duets where one figure is higher than another. So I wanted to work with these different surfaces that could give us different heights to other dancers, and also allow the limbs to be different relationships to each other. So we asked Es Devlin to design a set using this different planes. There is improvisation also in the work. There's probably the majority is set now, and other parts are left open. There are some great improvisers in the piece. I think, there's more improvisation in this piece than there ever has been in a work that I've done, unless I've been performing it myself. And I think that with the dancers, I had the confidence in the way that they work with their forms. as we were doing the dance, I thought that there was generally a kind of a lightness, and I thought there's such a weightedness to the sculptures of Rodin. How are we going to get close to that? And at the time, that took me into working with, I'd heard a piece of music that's usually played on the violin, played on a double bass, and it had a lot of weight to it. So that took us towards using the cello, and a deep cello, and using Alexander Zecchi to write the music. So we got a sense of weight, I felt, in the sound. But I thought we don't quite have it in some of the movement. And I'd always been thinking about doing something with hip hop, and I went to a show with that John Z D had curated in London called Breaking Convention, and I saw some of the performers there, and Dixon MBI was there, and I thought, wow, he's fantastic. He was doing a kind of improvised set, quite funny, and he was very it was very funny, but he was also really good at improvising, and I thought he had a great sense of weight. So I thought, wow, he's. I wonder if he'd be interested. You know, I'd like to go that route if he would be. So we started. I asked him, and we started to do some work together. There's a lightness in classical dance. You know, the direction really is away from the ground. And I think that, you know, with Rodin, mostly the direction was towards the ground. You know, it really had a gravity to it. And also with Rodin's work, you know, he was talking about profiles of a work and having 360 degrees of profiles of a work, and classical dance definitely has a front. You don't want to see it from this angle because that's, you know, it's presentational towards the front, and to a certain extent, you know, hip hop, capoeira, popping, you know, those forms, they're traditionally performed in a circle, and they traditionally don't have a front. You know, they're viewed from multiple angles, and many of them recognize that in the form, so there's a lot of turning. So it seemed that there was a connection to Rodin's work in using those forms as well. seemed quite early on I made the decision that, you know, if we were going, would we go with nudity or not? And seeing a figure dancing around on the stage naked, to me, is very different than seeing the figure static, frozen in a sculpture. You know, there's things that move around, and you're drawn to the things that move around the most. And to a certain extent, that stops you, to my view, that stops you from looking at the configuration through the body, which, when that is sculpted, you can absolutely see the configuration with the body. But if you've got the breasts moving a lot, you know, you're looking more at the breasts and how they're moving in a certain movement, then you're looking at the twists or the contortions through the body. And the same thing, you know, if we were using the men naked, you know, you've got things moving around that your eye just goes to it because it's moving more than the rest of the body. So I thought, okay, well, we're not going to go there. We could do something naked, but we could only do it really quite slowly. That would stop this effect. So we started to work on the solo with Jenny White, and you know, I felt that we couldn't really go as far as Rodin in the kind of erotic sense. Partly because of the setting. You know, I felt like, well, that's not. It's still it's a show. It's at the theatre. It's it has a different sense than if we go and look at the paintings or the sculptures. Usually, we work with the form also, and we see what's revealed when you put those things together and in what order, because all of that changes a lot. And then with the costume, with the light, with, you know, the music, all of those elements, where they come together, then you can start to see what it is. And then you can start to maybe give a title. And I was looking at one of the documentaries on Rodin and saying, I think there was one piece that had 7 titles, different titles, and of course it changes the meaning when you view it with this title or that title or that title. And you know, there was a time that, I mean, we'd always called this piece the Rodin project, because we were, you know, we were digging into the work of Rodin. So it was a project that was really around Rodin. But, you know, there was a time I thought we must hold back on the title because we haven't got the work. And, of course, the way it works with marketing and press they want the name of the work before you've got the work. So you think, well, it might not be right. You know, maybe the work should be called something else. But it's in all of the brochures now, and it's called this. So, you know, that's an element I think that you just have to swallow in this day and age. It's like,